On January 7th and 8th, 2026, the heads of the ATP, the WTA, and 3 of the 4 Grand Slams, Roland Garros, Wimbledon, and the US Open, gathered behind closed doors in London to strategize against the most dangerous legal threat professional tennis has ever faced. Their mission was simple: figure out how to crush the PTPA's explosive antitrust lawsuit, a 162-page complaint that calls tennis governance a cartel, one that exploits player talent and suppresses their earnings. And while these power brokers held their secret meetings, a separate legal battle was quietly exposing the WTA's ugliest secret. Lesia Tsurenko, a Ukrainian player once ranked number 23 in the world, had filed an amended federal lawsuit alleging that the WTA promised Ukrainian players it would ban Russians who publicly supported the war, then broke that promise, while its own safeguarding director investigated then-CEO Steve Simon for moral abuse, cleared him, and left Tsurenko suffering panic attacks, insomnia, and an inability to compete. This is the story the WTA, the ATP, and every Grand Slam board member does not want you to hear. And we have receipts. The official WTA and ATP press offices will not tell you what happened in those London meetings. They will not tell you why the WTA's own safeguarding system investigated its CEO and cleared him, while the complainant was left unable to do her job. We have tracked every filing, every statement, every contradiction. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications to join our investigation before they change the narrative. Let us start with what brought the most powerful people in tennis to a closed-door meeting in London in January 2026. On March 18, 2025, the Professional Tennis Players Association, the organization co-founded by Novak Djokovic and Vasek Pospisil in 2020, filed a 162-page antitrust complaint in the Southern District of New York, with parallel filings in London and Brussels. The lawsuit named 22 players as plaintiffs, including Nick Kyrgios, Sorana Cirstea, Riley Opelka, and Vasek Pospisil himself. The targets were the ATP Tour, the WTA Tour, the International Tennis Federation, and the International Tennis Integrity Agency. The accusation was blunt. These organizations, the lawsuit alleged, operate as a cartel, colluding to reduce competition and limit prize money. PTPA Executive Director Ahmad Wassar put it plainly: tennis is broken. Behind the glamorous veneer that the defendants promote, players are trapped in an unfair system that exploits their talent, suppresses their earnings, and jeopardizes their health and safety. The complaint accused governing bodies of capping tournament prize money, preventing wealthy tournament owners like Larry Ellison at Indian Wells from paying players more, allocating less than 20% of overall revenues to players, imposing an 11-month competitive calendar that grinds bodies down, using the ranking system to restrict player freedom, and forcing athletes into arbitration clauses that strip their right to challenge the system. The 4 Grand Slams, Wimbledon, the Australian Open, Roland Garros, and the US Open, were initially named as co-conspirators. By September 2025, the PTPA had escalated. They petitioned the court to add all 4 Grand Slam organizers as full defendants. Federal Judge Margaret Garnett approved the motion, and suddenly the All England Club, the French Tennis Federation, the USTA, and Tennis Australia were staring down antitrust allegations in federal court. Now here's where it gets interesting. The defendants' response was not to address the players' concerns publicly, it was to strategize in secret. According to The Athletic, on January 7th and 8th, 2026, the leaders of the ATP, WTA, and 3 Grand Slams, Roland Garros, Wimbledon, and the US Open, held closed-door meetings in London. The agenda, according to sources cited by The Athletic, was to discuss the structure of a deal aimed at giving tournaments financial security, producing more revenue for the sport, and giving players the increased pay, benefits, and voice for which they have been pushing ever harder in recent months. Those meetings followed a series of one-on-one discussions between ATP chair Andrea Gaudenzi and PTPA executive director Ahmad Nassar. Sources told The Athletic that both sides, alongside their lawyers, have expressed a desire to make changes to improve the sport quickly, rather than slog through a lengthy and expensive legal battle that is likely to leave everyone involved unhappy. But notice who was absent from those London meetings: Tennis Australia, because tennis Tennis Australia had already cut its own deal. On December 22, 2025, Tennis Australia confirmed it had reached an agreement to settle the PTPA's lawsuit without admitting any liability or wrongdoing. That settlement, brokered by plaintiffs' counsel Andrew Tulumalo of Weil Gotshal and Manges, would remove Tennis Australia from the litigation entirely, if approved by the court. The PTPA described it as providing invaluable consultation on the future of the tennis industry and litigation cooperation, strengthening our case. In other words, Tennis Australia did not just settle. It may have handed the PTPA ammunition to use against the remaining defendants. And then came the bombshell that shook the PTPA itself. On January 4, 2026, just 3 days before those London meetings, Novak Djokovic, the man who co-founded the PTPA, announced he was stepping away completely. After careful consideration, I have decided to step away completely from the Professional Tennis Players Association, Djokovic wrote on social media. This decision comes after ongoing concerns regarding transparency, governance, and the way my voice and image have been represented. The 24-time Grand Slam champion said his values and approach are no longer aligned with the current direction of the organization. The timing was devastating. The PTPA was heading into the most critical phase of its legal battle, and its most famous co-founder walked out the door. The PTPA responded by implying Djokovic's decision was influenced by inaccurate and misleading narratives, though they didn't name sources. But consider the optics. The man who built this credibility abandoned it days before the governing bodies he inspired the fight against sat down to negotiate. Whether Djokovic was pushed, pulled, or simply disillusioned, his departure handed the ATP and WTA a propaganda victory at the worst possible moment. Now, let us turn to the case that reveals the WTA's pattern of silencing dissent at its most personal and devastating level. Lesia Tsurenko's story begins in February 2022, when Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. In March 2022, Tsurenko and fellow Ukrainian players Elina Svitolina and Diana Yastremska met with WTA executives, including then-CEO Steve Simon. According to court filings, Simon took a confrontational position, but assured the players that if Russian or Belarusian players publicly supported the war, they would be banned from WTA-sponsored tournaments. That promise, Tsurenko's lawsuit alleges, was never kept. The complaint, filed in the Southern District of New York and amended in April 2025, cites specific examples. Russian player Veronika Kudermetova wore a patch at the French Open for sponsor Teneft, a subsidiary of a company sanctioned by the European Union for helping supply the Russian army. Despite this, neither Steve Simon nor the WTA banned Russian and Belarusian players who publicly supported the war. Instead, the WTA, ATP, and ITF issued a joint statement allowing Russian and Belarusian athletes to compete as long as they did not play under their national flags. That policy remains in place today. Russian players Mira Andreeva and Diana Schneider won silver medals in women's doubles at the 2024 Paris Olympics, competing as individual neutral athletes. The personal toll on Tsurenko has been catastrophic. Her lawsuit states she was forced to withdraw from an event in Indian Wells because of a panic attack triggered by having to potentially play against Russians and Belarusians. She developed excessive stress, loss of concentration affecting her performance at tennis games, mortification, and injury to her feelings. She is described suffering insomnia and crying episodes. "In my worst nightmares," Tsurenko wrote on social media, "I could not imagine that the professional tour, which I considered my home, would become a terrifying and alien place where the CEO of the organization consciously committed an act of moral abuse against me, leading to a panic attack and my inability to do my job." She described a cycle of pain, fear, panic attacks, humiliation, information concealment, and harassment of my team to silence me. She said the WTA failed to protect a woman, a tennis player, a human being, and instead chose to protect a person in leadership position. And here's where the institutional machinery of the WTA reveals itself most clearly. In 2023, WTA Director of Safeguarding Lindsey Brandon informed Tsurenko that Steve Simon would be investigated for violating the WTA's code of conduct. This was the WTA's own safeguarding system, recognizing the complaint had enough merit to warrant a formal investigation. But by October 2023, the organization informed Tsurenko that Simon had not violated its code of conduct, nor any provision of the employee handbook. Tsurenko tried to appeal, but was unsuccessful. The WTA's safeguarding director opened the investigation, the WTA's own process then cleared the man at the top, and the player who filed the complaint was left with no recourse within the system. It gets worse. In August 2025,
Tsurenko revealed that after her coach, Mikita Vlasov, submitted an official request to the WTA to open a case regarding Simon's actions. The WTA opened a case not against Simon, but against her coach. "My coach initiated an investigation into Steve Simon's actions," Tsurenko said. "He submitted an official request to the WTA to open a case. And today, I received a letter in which the association informed me that the case was opened against my coach. They decided to just get rid of the only person who spoke in my defense." She accused the WTA of trying to put pressure on her, continuing what Steve Simon started. "After my public statement," she said, "not a single WTA official, including Lindsey Brandon, Bob Campbell, or David Palonzo, contacted me to clarify the circumstances. This indicates the WTA was simply trying to hush up this incident and the fact of moral failure on the part of the company's CEO." The WTA's legal team, represented by Proskauer Rose, filed a motion to dismiss Tsurenko's case, calling her claims legally defective. The WTA stated it was disappointed she chose litigation, insisting that at all times the WTA and its management acted appropriately and in accordance with our rules. So let us connect these two stories, because they are not separate scandals. They are two symptoms of the same disease. The PTPA's antitrust lawsuit and Tsurenko's personal lawsuit both expose the same structural reality. Tennis governance operates as a closed system that prioritizes institutional self-preservation over player welfare. The PTPA says governing bodies function as a cartel that suppresses earnings and eliminates competition. Tsurenko says the WTA promised to protect Ukrainian players, broke that promise, investigated its own CEO, cleared him, then opened a case against the player's coach who dared to complain. The London meetings of January 7th and 8th, 2026 were not about improving tennis, they were about containing the threat. 3 Grand Slams and 2 tours sat in a room and discussed how to give just enough concessions to make the lawsuit go away without surrendering the structural control that keeps them profitable. Tennis Australia already broke ranks and settled. Djokovic, the movement's most powerful voice, walked away. The WTA's own safeguarding process was used to shield leadership rather than protect a player suffering panic attacks. The PTPA lawsuit demands a jury trial. Tsurenko's lawsuit demands a jury trial. Both cases are being heard in the Southern District of New York. The players are no longer asking for a seat at the table. They are asking a federal court to blow the table up. And the governing body's response has been predictable. Secret meetings, settlement maneuvers, motions to dismiss, investigations into the accusers rather than the accused. Will the remaining Grand Slams follow Tennis Australia and settle? Will the ATP and WTA offer enough reform to make the lawsuit disappear? Based on history, based on the WTA's treatment of Lesia Tsurenko, based on the fact that these organizations held secret meetings to strategize rather than public forums to listen, the answer is clear. They will offer the minimum they can get away with, because that is what cartels do. And we will be covering every filing, every meeting, and every broken promise, because someone has to. If this is your first time watching our investigations, check out the Tennis Playbook playlist for more breakdowns of what the WTA and ATP do not want you to see. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and let us know in the comments whether you think the PTPA will win this fight, or whether the governing bodies will find a way to crush the revolt from the inside.